If you had a X99 or maybe an H or Z97 motherboard, you probably came across your usual assortment of ports. But most of these motherboards also held one of these, which is an oddball connector that you don't really see anywhere other than these three board types. But I couldn't find any actual images of a board with these. This is SATA Express. This was a actually kind of clever way of using existing connectors and keeping it backwards compatible. You see, this connector is made up of two SATA connectors. So you can actually just plug in regular SATA drives to two of these ports, and they work just like normal 6 gigabit SATA ports. However, it does have this extra little connector here, and when you find a SATA Express device or cable, this will then output PCI Express. Now, the funny thing is that this was included on a whole bunch of boards. I've personally owned a couple boards with it, and this is pulled from a server that I just recently did a video on, although I probably won't have edited it by the time I release this video, just because this video is going to be so much shorter and it takes me forever to do long videos. This connector appeared on one generation and then just disappeared. It's one of the few recent connectors that I can think of, or interfaces that I can think of, that just died. There are some short-lived connectors, but I can't think of any that just died. Like, they're on boards and they exist, but they're missing the other half. Because finding any SATA Express connector cables or devices or anything like that that actually hit the market is like impossible. I mean, one, it's kind of hard to Google for because it keeps wanting to change it to like PCI Express or external SATA. It's kind of hard to track down things, and everything's just rumors. Everything's like at CES or whatever, they said they're going to release this and they said they're going to release that, but none of these things actually came out. Finding anything that actually uses this connector is like impossible. I searched high and low, and I think I've found basically the only commercially available device that actually existed for it. Before I get into the device that I found, this is what the cable looks like. As you can see, it's got the two standard SATA ports and then this additional one that's carrying these additional wires to the device, and this obviously signals it to switch into PCI Express mode. These cables look and feel just like regular SATA cables. I think they're basically the same thing. This is one of the few, and it actually says SATA Express. I do have an example of the other end. Now, the one at the bottom is your standard connector used for U.2 or SAS drives. If it's U.2, carries PCI Express, and if it's SAS drive, it's just the SAS protocol for kind of regular hard drives. But you can see the top one has a little notch right here, and that basically means that you can't connect a regular U.2 device to it. I don't know of any drives that actually use this. People said, oh, Intel's releasing one, blah blah blah. As far as I can tell, none of them came out. They just don't exist. Also, as far as I can tell, this never appeared in any servers, which is probably why none of the drives existed. This came out at the same time that M.2 came out, and M.2 obviously just completely took over, and that's what we all use. U.2 came out to handle a server space and high-end systems for NVMe. Now, I don't believe this actually supports NVMe. I think it still uses the old HCI interface. U.2 is NVMe all the time, as far as I know. Funnily enough, this cable does actually terminate into a SATA Express. You can plug in a U.2 drive to this, and it gets power from a little SATA power connector. It doesn't work, though. I have tried this. The Amazon page that I bought this from, which was it was like $20 or something for this useless cable. Like, when was I supposed to plug into this? The Amazon page did say that this does not support U.2, even though it's the right connector, which means unfortunately we can't actually plug any regular drives into this. This only supports, I believe it's just 2 lanes of PCI Express 2.0 and maybe 3.0. Doesn't even meet the requirements of a normal NVMe or U.2 drive that has the 4 lanes. That being said, the cable does exist, and it's useless. However, this cable that I was showing off, which has the proper quote-unquote SATA Express connector, this one actually belongs to a product, and it does the same thing. It pulls power from a little SATA power cable, and with that cable, you can use this. This is an ASRock front USB 3.1 panel, which takes the SATA Express cable and it turns it in to a standard USB 3 Type A connector and a Type C connector. And it takes up an entire drive bay to do this. I don't know why this exists, but ASRock for some reason made it, and it was the only device that I could find that actually uses SATA Express. For some reason, as far as I know, this is the cable that came with it. If you plug it in, it has a SATA power connector, but this connector here is a just insane connector. Again, I don't know what they're thinking on this. This plugs into here and it provides this connector on the other end, which is a USB 2.0 header that simply has power connections. In order to use this, it ties up your entire SATA Express slot. Okay, fine, that's to be expected. And it also takes out one of your USB 2 headers on the motherboard just to get power. I mean, they couldn't have splurged a little and made it like a Y splitter or something so that you could still use that. Why is there power coming from this then? I mean, it's getting 12 and 5 volt from it. So why does it need extra 5 volt from this? It's so weird. Maybe this cable's not the standard cable. If I recall, the guy said it was just missing the box. Pulling power from a 2.0 header for seemingly no reason, and it's taking up that header, which back then, you're going to be using because most things are USB 2.0. It's bizarre. I don't know why it exists. I don't know how many people bought one of these. All that's on it is a USB-C controller, or a USB 3.1 controller, I should say, and just some power stuff and like the little chip that handles USB Type-C for like the negotiation and the omnidirectional nature of it, the reversible connector. Again, why does this exist? How many of these did they sell? For anyone who still uses an old X79 or X99 motherboard with one of these connectors, because it's the only thing you can plug into it, basically. I have seen like a breakout board that uses the cable to like break it out to another board and basically give you a PCI Express slot, which would be marginally useful. That being said, I think it was just a prototype and it never actually went anywhere. I don't really have much else to say on this thing. It was really just a challenge to try and find a device, and yes, the one device that was made is completely pointless. I'll probably put this back up on eBay just to get rid of it. You're welcome to try and track it down, because I don't know who needs one of these, and they were only on the one generation of board. I'll probably even include this useless cable to plug into nothing.